Mike Johnson is really getting his time in the barrel now over Ukraine funding. This from The Hill. Speaker Johnson's perilous moment on Ukraine has finally arrived. The Hill reports, after months of delay, Speaker Mike Johnson is poised to step formally into the perilous debate over Ukraine aid, an explosive topic that carries high stakes for both the future of Kiev's sovereignty and the fate of Johnson's speakership. Since taking the gavel in October, Johnson has vowed to move another round of military help for Ukraine's beleaguered forces in their fight against Russia. But the issue has taken a backseat to domestic concerns with hard deadlines, including efforts to fund the government and renew Washington's foreign surveillance powers. With those priorities in the rearview mirror, Johnson is now shifting gears to tackle a package of emergency foreign aid, including new assistance for Ukraine, Israel, and Indo-Pacific allies that's expected to hit the floor next week, according to sources in both parties. I know there is a commitment from the speaker to do something on Ukraine next week, said Representative Adam Smith from Washington, a senior Democrat on the Armed Services Committee. The legislation is widely supported by lawmakers in both parties, but it comes with workplace hazards for the speaker, who has infuriated conservatives in his GOP conference by cutting a number of deals with President Biden and risks an even fiercer revolt if he does it again on Ukraine. One firebrand, Representative Marjorie Taylor Green, has already filed a motion to remove his gavel and is dangling it over the debate. Okay, so before we go on with the article, let's take a look at Marjorie Taylor Green with some very, very strong words for the people pushing continued funding for Ukraine.
This whole thing is the most repulsive, disgusting thing happening, and the American people are the ones writing the check. And I absolutely hate everybody here that is doing this. I mean, I seriously hate them for doing this to the American people and paying for the murder and slaughter of people in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has not said he wants to go march across Europe and take Europe. And the reality is Ukraine is not even a NATO member nation. But if you want to know something, Lloyd Austin and the others here, more than anything, want to send your uncles, your cousins, and your sons and daughters to the front lines in Ukraine, because that is the only country that for some weird, sick, and evil reason that they care about.
Wow.
It's funny because if you notice, the libs particularly like to beat up on her. And who's the other one? They really hate, the one with the brown hair.
Well, Lauren Boebert, yeah.
Lauren Boebert is the other one. And the themes of their attacks are never about their positions. It's always claiming they're stupid. It's always about that. It's always about that with liberals. It's always stupid, which I don't know. Some people, some uncharitable people might suggest that always attacking women with an opinion you disagree with is stupid is sexist. Might be sexist, because I don't hear anything stupid about what she's saying. And she says things I don't agree with, certainly. But I didn't hear anything stupid there.
Certainly not there. Certainly not there. Now, Donald Trump had to do a little bit of cleanup on that, which was a little awkward because here he is. I think this is at Mar-a-Lago, actually, with Speaker Mike Johnson standing right beside him.
We're getting along very well with the speaker, and I get along very well with Marjorie. We have a speaker. He was voted in, and it was a complicated process, and I think it's not an easy situation for any speaker. I think he's doing a very good job. He's doing about as good as you're going to do, and I'm sure that Marjorie understands that. She's a very good friend of mine, and I know she has a lot of respect for the speaker.
We have to get along, okay? We have to get, all right, calm down.
Marjorie's a woman I have too much respect for to grab her by the pussy.
Ukrainian aid bill, if the speaker was to move forward with it?
We're looking at it right now, and they're talking about it, and we're thinking about making it in the form of a loan instead of just a gift. We keep handing out gifts of billions and billions.
Yeah, that is not satisfactory to me. Well, we're thinking about, giving Ukraine money as a loan, not as a gift. Come on. Like, they're going to pay back a fucking loan. They're not going to have a country if you keep the war going. Like they're not going to be able to function at all if you keep the war going.
If we
So
pay
what's
back
this?
loan, repo man come for Mercedes. No can do.
No can do. What do you mean if they were going to make it a loan? You promised to end the war in 24 hours. Now you're talking about, well, I guess we'll loan them the money so that they could pay us back, and that's better than giving it to them. This is not an issue of dollars and cents, as he tries to frame it. Here he goes.
Of dollars, and we'll take a look at it. But much more importantly to me is the fact that Europe has to step up and they have to give money. They have to.
No, that's not more important. No, that's actually not really important at all, whether we give them money or whether Europe gives them money. The issue is not who gives them money. The issue is that, first of all, as Marjorie Taylor Green said, Ukrainians are being murdered in an unwinnable war. So every day this goes on is a day where more people die for no reason whatsoever. And number two, this could escalate and get nuclear, which is very dangerous for the entire world. So no, the most important question here is not who pays, who gives the money, and do they get the money back. The most important issue here is stopping the war, as Marjorie Taylor Green said, and he's trying to smooth it over with Mike Johnson there because he knows Mike Johnson is really in a tough spot right now. Anything else before we go to the article?
Yeah, I said on Jimmy's the other day, and this clip surprisingly got a lot of views. We started out talking about, World War III, and we kind of meandered into a lot of things. And I've said a few times, if Trump is allowed to become the president, I have to rethink my assumptions about the deep state and how much power they have. But some people, a vocal minority, and they might not be wrong, come back with the deep state's not worried about Trump. In the end, he didn't really shut them down last time, and they're not going to this time. And they could be right about that.
What is all bullshit about? Well, we'll make it a loan, not a gift. I mean, that's a very deep state
friendly
friendly
and
answer.
his view
there.
was on Israel.
yeah, and
right?
exactly.
He's not gonna bring that to an end. Look, last time when he was in office, I definitely think that he was a roadblock to the world we live in now. What's happening in Ukraine was supposed to happen in Syria. They wanted it in Syria. So I'm not prepared to say that he's not a thorn in their side. Is he perhaps not so much of a thorn that they want to, I don't know, take certain actions, shall we say, to ensure that he does not assume the presidency because it would just be more of a shitstorm than it's worth because in the end they run this bitch anyway? Maybe.
Yeah, I think that is certainly possible. On the other side of the aisle, Democrats have their own demands. Namely, they want to vote on a $95 billion Senate bill, combining aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan with humanitarian help for Gaza, which passed through the upper chamber in February with a 70-29 vote. The only way we get aid to Ukraine is if the House takes up the Senate bill, Smith said. There may be other things, but the Senate bill still needs to get to a vote if Ukraine is going to get support. How Johnson intends to thread the needle, securing his favored policies without suffering a job-ending backlash, is a mystery that swirled for months in Washington. Some Republicans are offering their quiet advice, saying the only way to get a bill passed through the divided House is to realize that whatever you do, not everyone will be happy. The problem is he's trying to thread this needle, and you can't thread the needle. The conference is too divided, a House Republican, who apparently would not give their name, told The Hill. You got to pick a path and sell that. He honestly and genuinely is trying to do the right thing. He can't pick a path and sell that because they are threatening to basically oust him over this. So this would be the second Republican to lose their job as Speaker of the House over Ukraine. Notice,
Keaton, are you suggesting that a small number of Congress people can have an outsized impact, not only on legislation, but the security of the Speaker's job? Because I seem to remember being told that if the squad did that, it was going to elect a Republican, or it was impossible to do that. We didn't have the numbers.
Powder dry, blah, blah, blah.
Had to keep the powder dry. I remember hearing all these things about why it wasn't going to work. And this seems to suggest that was wrong.
Well, absolutely. And, it goes beyond this. If you look, the past several Republican speakers of the House, whether it's John Boehner, Paul Ryan, right, even heading into this era, none of them actually use that as a stepping stone for larger office. They all hit a fucking dead end there because it's a really difficult job to do, especially with a divided caucus like this. And now he is in an impossible spot. The speaker is vowing.
Who was the last Speaker of the House to become president?
Yeah, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even tell you.
I bet we do have the most depraved audience on YouTube, but also the smartest. So
you know who would know that? Cool Blue. If Cool Blue was here, he would know. He would know that one.
All right. So that's the question for the chat. Who was the last Speaker of the House to become president?
Yeah. I don't think it might not have ever happened in the modern era. I don't know. I mean, I can't think of a single one.
You might be going back to
way back
18th century.
19th century. Yeah. The speaker is vowing to plow ahead with
LBJ was the Senate. He wasn't the House.
The speaker is vowing to plow ahead with the politically prickly debate as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, Biden administration officials, and leaders around the globe sound the alarm about Ukraine's immediate need for more military assistance. We're going to get FISA done today, and then we're going to move to the next priority, Johnson said on Friday when asked about Ukraine aid. Complicating his task is the question of whether to include policies in the foreign aid bill to address the migrant crisis at the southern border. Democrats, who are crucial to passing a Ukraine package, oppose any changes to the Senate bill, which has no border language in it. So can't do that. That's another door that's slammed in his face. To me, there's no question what it's going to look like. The Senate bill. That's what it's going to look like. So basically what you have is a situation where Johnson wants to get the Ukraine aid done. The only way he could do that would be to basically sell his base out to the Democratic Party. The question is, does he do that? Does he not do that? He says he's going to get Ukraine done. The only way to do that would be to screw his base and forfeit his seat, or not his seat, but his seat atop the Republican Party. So we'll see what happens. But like Russell said, this does demonstrate that a very small and committed and stubborn caucus can accomplish big things, such as stalling the war machine. Like, this is not like, I mean, we're not talking about like Medicaid caps here, right? You're talking about the military industrial complex. You're talking about the reason that the deep state and the permanent state exists. The reason the government is structured as it is so the war machine can keep turning. And they are, for the time being, grinding it to, if not a complete halt, certainly slowing it down to the point where people are very afraid.
You know, and they don't seem worried about relational harm. It's crazy.
Yeah.
These guys are crazy. They're not even worried about that. All right. So some people are saying Ford. I don't know if he was. Yeah, he was never the speaker. He was the minority leader. So I think the right answer, based on what I've seen, is Polk.
Oh,
James
wow,
K.
okay.
Polk. That he was the last actual Speaker of the House.
That's
and
what Jake
Ford,
is saying.
I wouldn't even really take that answer because he wasn't elected.
He wasn't elected. Right. That's a huge asterisk anyway. But yeah, Jake is saying the last Speaker of the House to become president was, in fact, James K. Polk. So that was people's guess, but also Jake has apparently looked that up. I feel like Polk is the answer that a lot of people give when they don't know and they're just taking a wild guess at an obscure president that most people will never have heard of. Let's try Polk. Right?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. We'll go with Polk.
Please clap.